squirrels really cheeky? Is it pronounced squirrel or squirrel? Welcome back to Shelby on Safari. In today's video, things are indeed going to get squirrely because we are going to be looking into the Pokemon known as Skwovet. First introduced in Galar, but now recently released in Pokemon Go. We're going to be looking into size, berries, as well as its shiny form to see just how similar it is to a real-life Pokemon of our world. That's what we do here on Shelby on Safari, so if you haven't already, click to join the safari and let's get started. Skwovet, the normal type Pokemon, first introduced in the Galar region, which, coincidentally enough, is based off the United Kingdom. Skwovet is known as the cheeky Pokemon, which could be quite literally because it has quite big cheeks, but also could be because of its cheeky personality. Now, Skwovet isn't the first squirrel-like Pokemon that's been introduced, but it is a normal type, which is a bit intriguing considering the other squirrels are electric types. But I mentioned we're going to look into size and see if size is important, specifically by referencing the zoological principle of Bergmann's rule. Does it apply? Let's find out. Bergmann's rule is a principle that essentially states the correlation between the external temperature and the body surface to weight in warm-blooded animals. Simply put, birds and mammals in colder regions tend to be bulkier than the individuals of the same species in warmer regions. So let's look at just that, the height and weight of some of the squirrel Pokemon that we've been introduced to. Skwovet comes in at 1 foot tall and weighs 5.5 pounds, whereas Pachirisu, an electric type, is 1 foot 4 inches tall, weighing a little bit more at 8.6 pounds. Emolga, the electric and flying type, surprisingly, is also 1 foot 4 inches tall and weighs 11 pounds. So Skwovet seems to be the smallest of the three, but Skwovet does evolve, whereas Pachirisu and Emolga don't have any known evolutions. And boy, when Skwovet evolves, there is no argument in terms of size. At level 24, Skwovet evolves into Greedent, coming in at 2 feet tall and a whopping 13.2 pounds. Whew, that's a big squirrel. So indeed it looks like Bergmann's rule does apply considering the evolution of Skwovet into Greedent. Now next up is berries, and the cheeky nature of these squirrels in regards to how they store these berries and if there's any differences amongst the species, if you will. Now Pachirisu, as an electric type Pokemon, uses its electricity to protect its food. Pachirisu love to groom. And in fact, when they're grooming, they use the fur that is shed and shape it into little static fur puffs, if you will. It's within these puffs that they store their favorite foods to protect them from other Pokemon or humans. Pretty clever. Emolga is an electric and flying type and, well, protects its food typically in its cheeks. However, since it is a flying type, sometimes Emolga store way too much in their cheeks and they then become unable to fly. Not really an effective system, but they do use their cuteness to cause trouble, as we've seen in the anime, so maybe they just plead with the big baby doll eyes to get more berries or take them from other Pokemon, rather than always relying on storing them. Whereas our friend Skwovet and Greedent do store their berries and seem to be quite greedy when it comes to it as well, which makes sense given that it looks like Galar certainly can have some harsh winters, thus they need to bulk up for the winter. The Pokedex entries state that their cheeks are normally stuffed with berries, and if they aren't stuffed with berries, Skwovet can become rather uneasy. But do the squirrels of our world really eat berries? Don't they eat mostly nuts? Well, it turns out that squirrels are quite opportunistic. Squirrels spend an average of 70 to 90% of their time finding and storing their food. They're quite adaptable when it comes to seasonal changes. Hence, they may seem a bit greedy with all the food storing. Speaking of storing, it turns out Skwovet can also store additional berries in its tail, but that seems to be more of the trick of Greedent, who keeps the berries in their tail and sometimes stuffs too many and so they'll fall out. It's also been stated that Skwovet are known to spit out the seeds in soil to cultivate more berry trees. That's fantastic. Quite the clever move by Skwovet indeed. Speaking of clever, a recent study on the eastern fox squirrels over in America found that they too are quite clever when it comes to protecting their food source. Scientists observed them digging holes and pretending, it seemed, to put an acorn in, but not really, then cover it up and run away in case other squirrels were watching them. And they too were also quite organized when it came to where they hid their certain types of food, like all the almonds in one place. It's a fantastic read, and I'll pop a link to it down in the description down below, because I feel we don't give squirrels enough credit. Speaking of people who don't get enough credit, the Pokemon creators certainly gave us an Easter egg with regards to Skwovet's shiny, or at least I think they did. Skwovet's normal coloration is brown and gray in color, whereas its shiny form is more red. And it turns out that red squirrels are in fact native to the UK. They've lived here for over 10,000 years, whereas the gray squirrels were introduced by the Victorians in the 1800s. They're actually brought over here from America. Some of these cheeky gray squirrels escaped, and the first recording of a wild population of gray squirrels here in the UK was recorded in 1876. Since then, numbers have certainly grown. Nowadays, it's estimated that there are 140,000 red squirrels versus 2.5 million gray squirrels in the UK alone. Now, sadly, red squirrels and gray squirrels can't live together. The gray squirrels are larger, and they're more effective at digesting seeds that have a high tannin content, like acorns, leading to some competition that doesn't end so well for the red squirrel. They have to move on to an area with less resources because they just can't compete with the gray squirrels. But also, doesn't help that the gray squirrel can also transmit a squirrel pox virus that doesn't do anything particularly to the gray squirrel, but is certainly deadly to the red squirrel. So just like how a shiny Pokemon is quite rare to find, turns out that the red squirrel is kind of like a shiny version, bit rare. Luckily, there are amazing organizations around the UK working hard to protect them. I'll pop a link to them down in the description below. So while Skwovet may seem certainly cheeky and greedy at times, their foundation is certainly strong in the real world with the real-life Pokemon known as animals. From the grey and red squirrels of the UK, to the eating habits, and even to Bergmann's rule. In fact, this video has been dedicated to my buddy ChoppA, who loves squirrels. And if the name ChoppA rings a bell, well, that's because he makes epic cakes. In fact, we did a collaboration a few months ago on the amazing Magikarp to celebrate 25 years of Pokemon. I encourage you, if you missed that video, you gotta check it out. This cake was insane. Go on, click it. Click the video right here. I'll see you over there. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!